Hello, it's Phillip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers, and this morning I'm looking at a book which has come to us from Hart Publishing. It's actually given the title A Criminal Fair Trial Rights. It's this book over here. I'll have a look at it in a minute. It's got a subtitle, Article 6 of the European Convention on Human Rights. It's been written and compiled by Ryan Goss. We've given it the title, The Most Heavily Litigated of the Article Rights, Explained in Critical Depth for Lawyers and Laymen Alike. My wife and I had a good look at this book, and we thought it was a very interesting one for a lot of reasons, because Article 6 is an important area for anybody involved in, certainly in criminal matters, and in a more general approach to the Human Rights Act itself. There's the book itself, that's the front cover, it's a hardback, and there's the back cover. There's a dust sheet. You can see on the inside of the dust sheet there's some various information about the book itself, and on the back cover it explains who Ryan Goss is. There we go. The book itself runs to something like just over 200 pages. So it's not a big book, but it's an interesting book. I'll explain exactly what Mr. Goss has been up to with it. There's the index, which is at the back, a relatively interesting, useful index. Then you've got a very substantial bibliography, because this is a learned work of some depth and very, very helpful. There is a very important conclusion which is worth reading at the back of it, which sets out the path as he sees it for the future of the article itself. Then you've got the actual book and the contents of it there. Then the front sheet is part of the criminal law library which the Hart Publishing group produce, and this is actually volume 11 of that criminal law library, which is listed there. You then move into it's dedicated to his parents, which is a rather nice, touching tribute. And then there are acknowledgements from him, which are put in there. And then do read what he calls Note on Methodology. And that actually explains how he's come to produce the book and how he's actually thought about it. And I'm going to explain that in a bit more detail in a minute. Then you can see the sections set out in A, B and C and so forth in two main sections. You can see the second section there, and then right at the end you've got the conclusion of the bibliography. Then we've got a series of cases, because this is looking at the case law itself. Lots and lots of cases, as you can see. I'll mention a little bit about that. And then we go straight in. There are some treaties, of course, which you've got there. Then you've got the introduction itself. You have a main body text, which you've got, and then you can see there are lots of footnotes at the bottom. And just running through, again, you can see lots of extracts of judgments, lots of statements by the various courts, and a huge amount of information, because the book is really about the case law surrounding Article 6. And it's, as I said, it's not a very big book. It runs to 200 pages, something like that. I found it fascinating because it's an area which is important politically at the moment. I'm recording this review in the autumn of 2014, where there are substantial disagreements about the Human Rights Act itself. And we are heading for a general election in 2015, and this particular piece of legislation is going to certainly be something which is raised. And of course the whole role of the European Convention on Human Rights and the court itself are also very much to the fore in the political agenda that we have currently within the United Kingdom. Anyway, Ryan Goss has produced, as I say, a very learned work here, and this is what we say about it. He's describes Article 6 case law as, quote, a fascinating and important body of law permeated by intellectual puzzles, which he hopes will further our understanding of some of those puzzles. Yes, he does just that in what was originally part of a revised doctoral thesis entitled Rethinking Article 6, which has been expanded to include a survey of hundreds of new cases. Now, we all know what Article 6 is, the right to a fair trial in its simplest form. This book, as I said, is part of the Criminal Law Library. It's volume 11 in that series from Hart Publishing, and they've maintained their reputation for excellence with this particular title, Criminal Fair Trial Rights. It's important to read the note on methodology at the beginning to get an idea of how Goss identifies the cases which form the basis of his extensive survey of Article 6 authorities. And the reader can see the meticulous way in which Goss goes about his task. We feel that the book can be approached on two levels: as an exploration of the extent to which case law is consistent, predictable, transparent and coherent to the academic and to the practitioner. So it's got the two particular relevant points, both the academic and the practitioner points. Fair trial rights include many component rights which are charted as a traditional approach on a one case by one case basis. Goss feels, rightly in our view, that such an approach, whilst useful, risks artificially isolating the cases into a series of watertight compartments. So he adopts a different approach with a critical look at cases through a number of cross-cutting problems and themes which are common to all or many of the component rights, and you'll see those listed in the actual content section at the beginning of the book. The case law driven approach enables Goss to show that the European Court's criminal fair trial rights jurisprudence remains marked by considerable uncertainty, inconsistency and incoherence. To assist the reader, Goss poses a number of questions. How does the court view its role in Article 6 cases? When will the court recognise an implied right in Article 6? How does the court assess Article 6 infringements? And when will the public interest justify an infringement? These and many other intellectual points emerge from this excellent and highly detailed exploration of one of the cornerstones of our current human rights, and is a fascinating read, I think, for lawyers and for lay people alike. Let me conclude by saying what I said at the beginning, and that is 2015 will probably see a substantial public debate on all matters European, as the United Kingdom holds a general election. So the last word for the time being goes to Goss when he includes the following: that unless there is a change, it will unfortunately remain hard to envisage how a potential applicant might attempt to make sense of the court's Article 6 case law. It is time for the European Court to take criminal fair trial rights more seriously, and it is the word change which is what could well happen, one way or the other, from 2015, so watch this space. Now the current law, he says, is as at St. Patrick's Day 2014. Now I'll just show you the book again just so you remember. It's a nice orange colour, cover rather, at the back of it. And then if you just go into the centre, you can see here the various little subheadings that he's got. There's one there, for instance. You've got a huge amount of detail, how the exceptions become the rule, and that's in terms of the way in which the article itself is structured. Then part C, the European Court has adopted several approaches to the internal structure of Article 6. So you can see what he's done. He's done a very detailed, in-depth analysis of Article 6 itself. The only word that I think I can give as a word of caution on this is that as we approach 2015, we could find ourselves in very different territory at the end of 2015 onwards, depending on what the outcome of the next general election here in the UK is. However, I think the jurisprudence that is contained in Article 6 will be with us in one shape or form, certainly persuasive if nothing else, for a very long time to come, because it does establish in a modern democracy what we actually require when we want people to experience a fair trial. And when that doesn't happen, they should be able to exercise rights to call the people who've done the unfair trial to account. And in essence, it's that balance that we're looking at. This is the very heavy academic detail that goes with it. But I think what Hart have produced is a really excellent publication. So thank you very much to them and to Ryan Goss for this, which is a continuing debate. I think for members of council, it's very important to know of this, especially if you're preparing to embark on a career in criminal law practice. Thank you to all concerned anyway. Bye-bye.